Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Industry Interviews. I am Jesse Math, VP of Strategic Partnerships at Keen. Thrilled, delighted, and excited to be here with Shaun Brown, CEO, co-founder of BirdDog. Shaun, thanks for joining us.
Thrilled to be here. I really appreciate you welcoming me in here, Jesse.
We're going to be talking to Shaun today about all things retail media. Shaun, you'll hear, brings a huge depth of experience in the commerce space and CPG brands and across other categories as well. Today we're going to be talking about the role of retail media within the broader landscape of commerce and traditional digital media and the role of audiences within it. So, Shaun, thank you again for being here. I'd love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us about your background.
Yeah, sure. So, Shaun Brown, I'm founder of BirdDog Commerce Media. I've been in shopper marketing, channel marketing, customer marketing for 25 years. I've been very lucky to ride the wave of this evolution for the past 25 years, working at both agency side, on the Holdco side, both with Omnicom and IPG for over 20 years. Then I was working with global CPGs in markets around the world, helping build shopper marketing campaigns, and then the evolution of when media came into this equation. Most recently, I was at Tenuity, where I led the commerce team there and got to know Jesse. So this is why a very fortunate relationship that we've been able to form. And but then I shifted out and recognized that there was an opportunity to start something new in the marketplace, and that's why we founded BirdDog as an agency to solve some of those gaps in the marketplace.
Yeah, great. So the answer begs the question. Tell me a little bit more about the gaps. I mean, the industry is awash in 2025 with retail media. So everyone's talking about it, everyone's doing it. Where does the gap, and how does BirdDog approach the space in a unique way?
Yeah, everybody's treating it a little bit like a gold rush to get into it, but we come with a little bit of a different perspective. There's really three big reasons of why we decided there was a need for this. The first is this whole shift in access to clean rooms and 1P data is creating this idea of audiences, an audience-first approach to retail media. It's been the holy grail that we've been chasing for 20 years, being access to data. If you've been in shopper marketing and all this evolution, and now it's finally here. But the problem is the gap between a lot of where those big agencies who've been doing brand media for a long time, they tell the audience story really great, but they really are struggling with the performance side, and that's why they're making acquisitions. Meanwhile, on the flip side, there are a lot of the performance agencies who grew up doing this digitally native through Amazon, but the idea of audiences is foreign to them. They're used to performance and optimizing a ROAS. We think there's this new space right in the middle that takes this idea of audiences first approach to understanding how to go to market and how to win on retail media platforms on-site and off-site. And that's why we called it BirdDog. We fetch and find the audiences that matter most. The second thing that we thought was really important is there's just a massive underserved need for mid-market, emerging brands, and SMBs. Everybody is chasing these enterprise clients, and rightfully so. But reality is there are thousands upon thousands of brands who are on Amazon or Walmart marketplace or any retailer's marketplace who need help. And so we wanted to focus on that, which connected to that is the third reason, is this idea of democratizing tech, data, and AI. A lot of these SMBs don't feel like they have access to it, can't compete with the big guys. And we wanted to work with partners like Keen and several of our other partners to make those tools accessible so a brand of any size can compete with a brand of any size. And that's why we think every dog has its day, and so should every brand. And we're going to give them the tools to go win. So those are the three things that really defined why we thought this was a need, and there was a gap in the market and no one served it.
That's awesome. Yeah, love the branding. That's really cool.
Thanks.
You said a few things, and let's dive in. So you said part of the revolution that's happening, or part of the unlock, was just the proliferation of CDPs and what that's doing for audiences. I'd love to hear you just talk a little bit more about that. I think there is a notion out there that one of the reasons for retail media is to use the retailer's data. Do you see it the same way? And isn't that good enough?
Yes and no. Yes, the fact that it's unlocked, having access to their data and their audiences is an amazing opportunity. But I'm a big believer that every brand should have its own source of truth. We should be starting with who are our audiences and how are they behaving, what are their paths to purchase, and how are we using the analytics to understand that, and then appending that with the retailer 1P data. How do we get into AMC with Amazon or with Luminate at Walmart, or as more retailers turn those on for us to understand that, so we can understand how their audience looks with our audience appended to that. If we solely work with just the retailer audiences, I'm only getting a portion of the marketplace to look at, right? And so we have to look at all these retailers in a hub and spoke type approach with my data and theirs appended to it. Now, when I would say it matters great for just working with just their data is if you're digitally native, you're small, you're emerging, you're launching, and you're launching on that retailer, then yeah, that is your universe. So work with that data, dive into that, and work with them as much as you can. That's going to help drive your behavior, and you don't have to build that on your own. But in time, you will need to have your own 1P data and your own audiences.
Yeah. So what I heard is, rather than just trying to reach people who buy cat food on Amazon and other people who buy cat food at Kroger, to take ownership of the kind of cat food people that I'm interested in, my customers, people who've engaged with my brand, and being able to unify that cat audience across retailers.
Correct. But I would say it's even more than that. It's being able to look at that data and say, who are the most valuable audiences for me? Not just the biggest group of them. So who has the best lifetime value or propensity to purchase? And if I look at those audience, if I can't treat all audiences the same, to your point, just somebody looking for kitty litter, they're not all equal. How often do they buy it? What's their frequency? And do they have intent signals offsite that maybe that retailer doesn't have? And so I can get a better understanding of the value, the size of that audience to me. And then I need to start figuring out, how do I find those audiences by retailer, and which retailer can offer those up to me and append those data. Now, and then try to use some lookalike audiences to get even to scale more. But it's not just about the demand capture, right? It's about a deeper understanding of an audience-first approach.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. So, yeah, it makes sense. It's not just about the cat people. It's about, are the cat people recent cat people? Or potentially, is it someone who had a cat 3 years ago?
Right. When you start integrating signals from other sources, I can find out, hey, that person just has been researching ASPCA and be looking at pet adoptions. Well, those are signals that the retailer won't have. But if I have my source of truth and I can start to understand those audiences, start to hit them, and start to then understand their 1P data whenever I can connect with cookies sticking around, that allows us to connect those dots and start to serve them as they start to move into the world of retail, or serve them with those needs to drive them to retail. And that's a value that a brand can deliver to a retailer that they aren't doing today.
Mm-hmm. Makes total sense. So you talked about BirdDog, and I realized I've been using cat examples with the dog company, so I apologize. You got to know my audience. But you talked about BirdDog really bridging the gap, or sitting right in the middle of advertisers who are traditionally focused on brand, and providers who are typically focused on performance. Is this audience approach driving short-term results? Is it driving brand awareness? What kind of impact do you see from this approach?
Again, all. So I think that's been the problem especially for some of the larger clients out there. It's an either or. I'm trying to drive my brand, my affinity, and my awareness or retention, or I have a budget aligned to my retailer and I have to drive transactions now, right? And a lot of times those are at odds with each other. Now, as we start to look at a more full funnel approach and understanding audience as a total, then we can start to combine those. And I would argue, It's not an either or. It's definitely an and that's forcing, I think, marketers who are in this space to start to become more complete marketers. You have to understand it's a tall ask to not just say, how do I optimize my ROAS or get the tacos or whatever metric you're looking at. It is really about where is my tipping point and diminishing returns of when I start to pass a point of spend here when I'm impacting a brand health, or am I spending too much on brand and not driving transactions? So that's where there's still an art to this, but there is more analytics and more AI coming to, I'm sure, with your tools to help us get better answers with that.
Yeah. So lots of keywords there that are part and parcel to our worlds here in marketing mix modeling. So you have the audience, you have the first party data. That means that in a lot of you're able to connect dots and kind of understand exposure to conversion and potentially that path. Why have you at BirdDog made marketing mix modeling front and center to your approach, and what is that unlocking in terms of understanding that balance between short-term and long-term results?
Yeah. That one's probably the easiest question for me, because I think, again, going back to maybe why we started this, I'm a little biased of growing up doing shopper marketing and customer marketing, and our goal is always been drive the business result, right? And so that is whether that be a top line revenue, category share, certain profitability, whatever that definition is. And a lot of the performance agencies have come up like, I'm just trying to maximize a performance metric. And that's not what we're about, right? So media mix modeling allows us to say, where does the next best dollar go to achieve the business result we're looking for, right? And so we can plug in, if I'm looking for revenue, if I'm looking for profit, if I'm looking for new to brand, whatever those metrics are that is defined by the client. I need to understand, how do I get to the right touch point or the right retailer to drive a business result? Right. And so then if we're doing that, then I can guide a client as being a business partner and not a service provider. Right. We're not a service provider. We're a business partner to help drive the results. And that's why we love when we talk about mid-market and SMBs. That's, this is exactly what they're all about. And so we were very focused on that group to drive the results they're looking for.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of our partnership and the level of insight that we're able to bring forward together gets to the heart of the challenge of retail media that honestly I'm most excited by, because I love overcoming challenges, right? And that challenge to me is the audience duplication across retailers. Just rhetorical question, like, what do you think the overlap is between Amazon shoppers and Kroger shoppers? Probably 99. Yeah, go ahead.
They'll each argue not very much, right? Because they want to say that they have a unique audience. And to a degree, they do. But I'd also say that duplication is not always a bad thing. That halo effect, and that's what we're not taking into account. The halo effect of what we run on certain media platforms and the impact it has in total is great. At the brand level, at the CMO level, that's a fantastic solution. Problem is a lot of times these customer teams, their budget is aligned to their retailer. And so if that's the impact, if it's having elsewhere, they don't particularly care. So really it gets back into understanding, particularly retailers where we have 1P data, to understand, are we doing the right activations to drive the results you need within your retailer? But then also having that team start to understand how to talk about that halo impact they're having on the broader business. That's a positive. It doesn't usually impact their bonus, but it is definitely something they want to take credit for.
Right. So what I heard you say, tell me if I got this right, is that spending $1 in retail media with Amazon or Kroger or you name it has a full funnel, cross retail, cross point of sale impact.
Yes. That
we've always known exists, but haven't been able to prove before.
Right. And it goes back to, it's related to this, where a lot of teams talk about last touch attribution, right? And so wherever the last touch is how it drove the sale. We believe more in an any touch attribution, because a lot of our experience and the data we've gotten from our clients is those multi-touch drive better results for each of those, and it drives better performance. So if I think of it in those same terms, like I'm having a multi-touch approach within a retailer, those multi-touches I need to think about it across retailers as well, and understand if I have my own source of truth of audiences and data, and I'm tracking that individual of how they are in terms of what they mean to me and lifetime value, I should understand how they shop across different channels and different retailers. So starting to look at across, I think that's why, again, audience approach, not retailer approach. I need to look at an audience and understand which channels they're in and where are they at in the funnel to me in terms of new to brand to high loyalist. That changes how I engage with those audiences.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about like understanding that broader impact might not impact the bonus of the person at the CPG company who's tied to a specific retailer. But I remember a conversation that you and I had together with a brand side advertiser who was responsible for Amazon. And her primary interest was, of course, driving sales at Amazon, but also showing that when she invests in Amazon, how it influences the entire business. Correct. She wasn't out for a bigger bonus necessarily, but she was competing for budget. And she was saying, don't just give me my dollars to drive sales at Amazon. Give me dollars because my investment in Amazon lifts all ships.
Correct. So it gets into it's almost a new way of thinking of incrementality of what a retailer platform delivers for you, wherever those dollars are. And there are ways that we should be doing some A/B testing of turning some of those dollars on and off by retailer to understand what happens to Kroger or to Albertsons when I turn off Amazon or Walmart, not turn off, but change the parameters of what we're spending there. And then we can start to really understand and equate true performance metrics around the impact that they're having. But to your point, it's all about the budget, right? If I can show value here, and that's where the CMO, the chairman choice comes in of like, where am I going to put more dollars to place bets to grow my business? A lot easier when I'm working with SMBs. They care about the bottom line, top line revenue and bottom line combined. When you get into larger enterprise clients, it's a different game. And to your point, I'm not going to call it politics, but it's the game of proving out the value of my partnership with that retailer and what that does for our total business.
Yeah, so let's turn our attention to SMBs in a second.
Yeah.
But first, I have one or two more questions about those politics. Because, again, you bring robust experience. You said a list of experience that I can't even replicate all the teams that you said exist within the organization, the shopper team, the trade team, right?
Right.
Now there's retail media on top of that. What kind of political chaos is retail media creating within organizations, or is it not and it belongs somewhere very neat?
So I can tell you in the last 10 years, I'll tell you a quick story. We did some primary research. My clients was Coke at the time. This was 8-9 years ago. And we were trying to understand what are the touch points of how shoppers make decisions by retailer. And what we found were at the time that like 8 of the top 11 touch points were digital, and over half of those were owned by a retailer, which today sounds obvious. But at the time, that was eye-opening. And the next natural question was like, well, how much were we spending? And I can tell you it was millions. And who was buying it? It was the field sales guy. It was like a pay-to-play type engagement. No trained media person was doing that. It wasn't integrated into a larger plan. And so there was, point of that story is you start to see this pendulum go back and forth of where the ownership is. It was out in the field because it's customer team and they own that budget and they work with the retailer. But it wasn't, we were overlapping in terms of they were doing all kinds of tools in their own media on top of another media plan. Instead of something in the middle, the pendulum swings very fast the other way. Like, we're going to centralize all this into the brand team. And this is not just that client. It's all clients were behaving this way. And then we found, you see that, oh my God, we're unified, but these teams don't understand that ecosystem. They don't understand retail. They're creating major conflicts with the customer teams, and they don't know their shopper, and there's trust lost, and then there's performance lost. And then you start to see some specialized teams coming out of this. And what I see now is more of a unified team with specialists, working as a group. Even I think I've seen more agencies perform this way as well. of how do we look at a holistic media plan with retail and the media plan with social, everything integrated, because now social has got attribution. We're pushing straight to retailers. We're pushing to D2C. We're trying to create awareness out of that. And those are different behaviors and different metrics we're trying to track. So those teams have to be working hand in hand. But you can't be a generalist. You still have to have some specialists within those teams working together, because there's just such nuances of between social or streaming or DSP or anything with search and when we use retailer platforms. So to do it great, I think we're at another tipping point of how teams are changing right now to work more integrated. But yes, there has been a lot of egos and politics that get in the way at bigger shops or bigger companies. But I think they are starting to realize this more unified story.
Yeah. What is media? What is retail media? What is commerce media? What is shopper media? What is trade marketing?
Yeah.
Where does it start and stop?
And I would even argue retail media is not even retail media anymore. It's becoming brand. We can talk about non-endemic and endemic and streaming, and it's evolving as well. And so I just think in terms of touch points. So going back to media mix modeling, what's the right way to engage a shopper? Understand how does that particular audience perform or behave, and what's the right way to engage them? So it's not just where the next best dollar goes by retailer, but where's the next best dollar go by audience, by retailer, on-site, off-site. And if the data told me 90% of it should be on social and drive that traffic, so be it. And, we're going to make those right engagements, but we also understand that there is a pay-to-play with a lot of retailers, and so you can't go all in one way or another. But understand that have the data in front of you with what we're doing to understand what performance will drive, and then we make choices. Some of those understand what those opportunity costs are to make the things work within a brand team, with a retailer, and understand how we're driving the results we're looking for. And we sign up for those results on the front end.
Yeah, totally. So, the complexity isn't just which retailer do I work with. The complexity is which retailer do I work with for on-site. When we say on-site, we mean like sponsored search and sponsored display and video ads. Which retailers do I work with off-site, which is everything from ads on your connected TV to display to social. Correct. And even more going forward. So these levels of concentric circles of which retailer on platform and off platform starts to get very complex.
Exactly. And the more we can see, you're seeing more and more of these off-site channels get connected to these retailers to have attribution, because they've heard the message from CMOs everywhere. Performance. Prove to me what you can drive. So if the more those get connected, the more we can prove the results they have an impact, and the more of an integrated total commerce story we can talk about.
For sure. One of the most exciting outputs of our partnership, and a shout out to the value of marketing mix modeling in this space, is the ability to model not just paid media, not just results, but all the other things outside of the tradition of the marketer's role. So we're having this conversation about what's media, what's retail media, different stakeholders, different teams. Mm-hmm. One of the beauties of the marketing mix model is that you can put in all of those spend centers, all of those strategies into a single model. You can model each point of sale in a portfolio model. So now you have your Amazon, your Kroger, your Target, your Walmart, your all other, et cetera, models built out. In each, you have your traditional retail media, you have your shopper, you have your trade. And so now you can start to optimize, understand when I invest with one retailer, how does that drive results and create halos on the others? But ultimately, what's the right amount to be spending across trade, shopper, and retail media with each partner to maximize the profitability of my overall brand? And so now suddenly BirdDog marketing mix modeling becomes a center of excellence for JBP, joint business planning, strategy, and negotiation.
Right. So again, something I've learned from my days of working and calling on customer teams, going to Bentonville or Minneapolis, is come in, let's remove the subjectivity. Let's remove the idea of someone saying, I don't think that's going to work, or I don't like that idea. Come in with the data and the predictive analytics that prove these are data that we have and algorithms that are written, and we have high confidence in what they're going to deliver. This was how we'll drive the business. You can do that at your top to top. You can do that internally for your own teams in terms of how you're deciding where the dollars go. And the CMO or whoever the owner is can look at all of those aggregated up is based on this modeling, am I going to achieve the business result we're looking for, right? And if not, then we can start to optimize, to your point. Like we can optimize to more top line revenue, more profit, or more of, I need to find new to brand and shoppers who are engaged in this. And so whatever we're trying to do, we can optimize against that, or change those models individually by retailer and get a new output. But it allows us, what I particularly love about y'all's platform is that it's kind of always on, right? Most media mix models, like you're hiring some firm for some ridiculous amount of money for several weeks, several months to get it. And it's kind of we've done this for the first 6 months, or maybe and this is going to be our model for the year. And that's not how today works. Today is all about in the moment. And so I'm a bigger fan, and now you guys have robust data to do this, but like I'll even take smaller sample sizes to give us more directional information of what's in the moment right now than some large study. Because it's going to be more in touch with impulse what's going on at the moment with our clients. And it's just part of the evolution of where we are in this industry.
How do we make better decisions faster?
That's right.
Than we were before. So some of this complexity is the fodder of enterprise businesses. But I definitely want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the application here for SMB. Does all this complexity exist for your SMB partners? How do they get started? And who is retail media right for?
Right for everybody. On all counts, media mix modeling, the media platform. Again, going back to why we founded this, is trying to give access to brands who didn't think they had access to this or didn't even understand what this meant to them. Now, if we have a brand who is launching right now, it's their first foray into this industry, and they've launched their brand, I'm probably not going to jump into media mix modeling immediately because we're going to help them get the demand capture on the retail platform, get started, create some traction. And then, because what most agencies fail at, and I'm sure most of these brands feel this, is like, yeah, there's a lift. Somebody came in and we started to fix some of the terms and what we're doing, and our ROAS got better. And 6 months in, there's a glass ceiling, and you can't get any more. So where do you turn? And it's really about understanding. Again, when I say audiences, I think of in terms of different channels or audiences, right? So, and that gets me into media mix modeling of like, okay, where's the next best channel for us to find a new audience? DSP, working with the retailer? Is it streaming? Is it using Google search with attribution back to Amazon? Each one of those represent another audience. And so that's when we start to really help our clients understand, okay, the tools and the analytics around what your tools are at Keen help us push, where do we go next? And what's the most effective and most profitable way for us to find that next audience to drive the business forward?
Yep, totally makes sense. So you said it's right for everybody. Is it right for non-endemic also? What's the approach for non-endemic brands to retail media that you see?
I think that's probably the most exciting thing happening in retail media right now. It'll probably be even bigger than what we've seen in dollars with retail media to this point. We just wrapped up building a new, co-built it with Amazon, to a platform for first-party data for streaming TV for non-endemics. And so, for example, it helps brands who never thought about that channel as a way to get in and find another audience. So imagine you're a storage facility and you see somebody who has been on Amazon can help you find somebody who's been buying packing tape and boxes and bubble wrap, and they're giving you a cue right now, those signals that, hey, here's somebody who's about to move and could use storage or could use a moving company. Or if somebody's out there buying swim trunks and sunscreen and sunglasses and a travel bag, well, maybe the rental car and the airline and the hotel would like to reach that audience as well. So it creates a whole new way to find audiences in a channel that was new to them. So that's a whole new group of brands. And those dollars are more in the brand media dollars, which are typically much more significant than the retail media dollars. So that opens up for the retailers a whole new pathway. I'm curious to see how far that goes. The retailers that have, like with Walmart with Vizio and with Prime on Amazon, particularly, that's why they're becoming as much a content creator as they are a media platform or a marketplace. They're trying to draw those dollars in from all those different entities.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like they deserve it. It sounds with the audience signals and in a privacy and cookieless first environment. It's
Right.
just a huge
And being able to
recognition.
connect those new audiences back, that opens up more 1P data for that brand and to bring them into their ecosystem.
So I'm an SMB brand. I'm non-endemic or am endemic. It almost doesn't matter. And I'm investing in Google. I'm investing in Meta. And now I need to do something else. You would make the pitch to them that retail media would be the
It's a great
first,
platform.
second.
I mean, I just saw a report, I think, from eMarketer 2 days ago that Amazon DSP is going to surpass Google in 2 years as the largest platform out there. And so it's what they offer you with their audiences and taking their audiences to create lookalikes and push them into a DSP or streaming environment to find you even more audiences is a really, really interesting to me. And I'm interested as we move forward, as we start plugging more of that into the MMM and get more, because that's going to take more data to get more refined at being accurate with that. But I think we'll see really good results out of that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's, hey, everything, just start spending all your money on one of these retailers. That's not it, but be open to it. In the same way we're suggesting, hey, SMB, I know you think you're small and you should only be doing search on Amazon. Reality is you have access to sponsored videos, sponsored STV, DSP. There's influencer. There's all kinds of tools available to you, no matter what your size is. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, no matter how big you are, there's new audiences on these retailer platforms to help you find and engage in new ways. Right? So everything is possible is my basic story.
It doesn't have to be such a mystery. I think that's part of the beauty of our partnership is that this SMB, this mid-cap brand, this emerging disruptive brand that might not be so small anymore, it doesn't have to be a big mystery. You get BirdDog that brings the expertise of all the options and who to work with and how to find the audiences, the halos, and the incrementality. And then you're sitting on top of $8 billion in annual media spend that sits within Keen so that you can, this doesn't have to be a guessing game. You can find out how those channels should perform for you and what will happen to your business in the short term or long term should you enter those channels, even if you've never tried it before. It's like a fast forward button on statistical significance.
Yes, I don't know how to answer that other than yes. That's all. I agree with all of that. Just I guess broader idea though is it's an amazing time to be a marketer doing this, or a terrifying time. It's this massive evolution. If you go again, I live here in Atlanta. You can go down to World of Coke and see 130 years of marketing history. And it's pretty much the same stuff, paper on a stick and merchandising for 125 of it. It's the last 5-10 years where technology, AI, data, the media has come in and to completely change this industry. And we're at a point that we get to rewrite the rules of marketers. And you just think through time, how many people in your industry you get to, in any vertical, you get to rewrite the rules. It's pretty awesome. But that also means constant consumption of what's next, and you can't sit on whatever you think you have figured out, because you don't, because there's somebody else coming up with new tech or new innovation or a new way to get engaged, and right now is just an awesome time to be doing the things we do.
Well, it's great. Breaking rules makes me nervous personally, so I'm glad to have partners like you to help me navigate it. But it's clear that if you are an emerging brand or an enterprise brand right now, BirdDog can certainly help you find the right audiences, find the right investment levels, and measure the impact of your options in this really exciting and emerging space.
Well, I thank you for those kind words, and we reciprocate and feel the same about Keen, that anybody who works with us, you're getting Keen with it.
That's great. Any final words? That was it.
Go spend more on retail media.
Thanks, Shaun.
Thanks, Jesse.